Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time today and joining us on another Onacon webinar series. And thank you all for who may have joined us this time last year, the System 1000 webinar. Based on your recommendations and your feedback, that's why we're having this webinar today. So thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. We have many topics to cover today in today's webinar. The first, the Onacon difference, and then the challenges of modern hydronic systems, the history and growth and updates and new features of the System 1000, BTU applications, coefficient of performance applications with the System 1000, and a cost benefit of a multi-channel BTU system. And lastly, we'll close it off with the Q&A with all the attendees here. Please be sure to enter all your questions in the question box in your webinar window. And this webinar is hosted by me, Jacob Biggs, Regional Sales Manager, Scott Avoy, BTU Meter Product Manager, and Mike Rivers, our Director of Sales and Marketing. So first, let's talk about the Onacon difference, which is our philosophy here at Onacon. We believe in providing an engineered solution configured specifically for your applications and your specifications for your unique projects. Each product is individually wet calibrated to a NIST traceable standard. We have a high trained sales and application engineering team to support you from the very start of your project to the very end of your project. So no matter what's going on, if you can't figure a problem out within 10 minutes or less, that's our philosophy. Give us a call. We will help you resolve your issue. We have unparalleled support customer service representative team to support you from the very release of your project all the way to the end when you're receiving that product. We have a global independent rep network that's expanding, especially globally. Most importantly, we have an industry-leading warranty. We believe in our product, so we believe you should too. And that is a 1-year no-fault warranty. I'll give you a little story. I had a customer that had a meter that wasn't working. It turned out it got fried because the wrong power was sent to that meter. We replaced it with no questions asked. We also have a 3-year total warranty on our products as well. So let's dive into it. First, the challenges in modern hydronic systems and how the System 1000 helps. Data challenges, especially in central plants. You're blind when you're going to a system, you go into a central plant. You don't see anything. With the System 1000, it allows you to see things that you typically wouldn't have, such as being able to see your energy usage in real time across all your systems in your central plant, such as your chiller systems, your boiler, your condenser water systems, or any other hydronic systems you have in your central plant. You get full visibility of performance, that's COP, energy efficiency calculations, and even detect energy drifts. Enhancing predictive maintenance allows you to be reactive when something's not working correctly. You can streamline integration or have a single standalone platform, which eliminates fragmented data across multiple devices. You're bringing multiple devices into a System 1000 with a single point of integration if you want that, or have a standalone product. Your centralized plant is centralized with all that data, which allows you to benchmark all that from your system plant system into one device. So if you wanted to compare 1 week versus another, or 1 month to another, you can easily do it by pulling that data, downloading it, and comparing it. Next is accuracy. Traditionally, we used to just supply flow meters, and we would get calls saying, hey, your flow meter isn't working. Our flow meters are highly accurate, 0.2% to 1% of reading. We dove into this a little bit more. And what we've noticed, it wasn't the flow meter, it was the way we were doing calculations and the temperature sensors, which allowed us to create our solid state Onacon temperature sensors, which are bath calibrated specifically for your application, which allows us to have a temperature differential of only 0.15 degrees Fahrenheit across that system for your supply and return. This increased accuracy is at least 4 times compared to traditional RTDs. Having it all on one platform reduces error calculations, 0.05% across the board in the entire system. It operates as a unified system delivering reliable data for many applications. And when you compare the total energy accuracy of the entire system with System 1000, you're just looking at unparalleled numbers, 1.58% to 1.8% of rate compared to traditional methods. It's typically between 5 to 10% error. And lastly, installation challenges. System 1000 allows you to have a single platform for your entire central plant for monitoring. It's up to 4 channels on one system, which ultimately lowers cost versus having multiple devices, saving thousands of dollars, which Scott will dive into later on the presentation so you can see visibility on that. Reduce footprint or panel space requirements. You can reduce up to 4 units or more just on one System 1000. That's one device. Or have a single point integration like we mentioned earlier, making it easy and simplifying wiring and field connections, having only one unique wiring diagram for your entire central plant monitoring system. And overall, it helps your building maintain as commissioned performance. We all know when you commission a building, it's operating as it should. But over time, those things changes. Those changes can be eliminated by having a System 1000 and seeing how your building is performing in real time.
All right, thanks, Jacob. So let's talk about the System 1000 itself for a little bit here. And we like to say that it is a unique approach to BTU measurement that is growing. When we first came up with the concept for the System 1000 about 5 years ago, we wanted to come up with a device that could replace several Onicon devices on the wall of your mechanical room. It could do multiple channels of BTU thermal energy measurement, as well as take in other peripheral devices and other Onicon devices and use that as the central hub for your modern mechanical room. Really nice, modern looking device that really takes the replace of many Onicon boxes on the wall of your mechanical room and gives you a really nice interface that you can walk to and see a whole lot of information there. We referred to it as a total system integration platform. And with that, you can see that any of these Onicon devices on screen, whether it's the clamp-on ultrasonic, insertion electromagnetic, insertion turbine, inline turbines, inline electromags, steam, gas, or even our compact inline ultrasonics, any of those Onicon products can be brought into a System 1000, and it's a single point of reference and a single point of contact going back to your building automation system. Previously, that was just over BACnet, but we've got some improvements there we'll talk about here. So the original System 1000 was laid out like you see on screen here. It was a dual channel BTU measurement system that was capable of 2 analog or frequency flow inputs, 2 pairs of temp sensors, and then your auxiliary inputs could be 2 analog or frequency rate inputs with totals, and you had 4 digital or pulse totals. And as for the temperature sensors, like Jacob mentioned before, for the best accuracy, we always recommend ordering with the Onicon Precision current-based solid state temperature sensors. We bath calibrate those here in-house and batch them up and match them so that they're super accurate when paired together for very minimal delta T error between temperature sensor sets. So in terms of growth and market adoption, we released the System 1000 in 2023, and 2024 really started to take off for us. 95% sales growth in, over 23. And then that happened again last year in 2025. We had a 44% growth over 2024. In 2026, it looks like we're continuing that trend of growth for the System 1000. It's been a really great performer for us, and we have a lot of our reps and RSMs that are finding really good sales opportunities for the System 1000 compared to System-10s and D100s. Most specifically, complex mechanical rooms and systems with a lot of flow meters, a lot of sensors. Your modern systems, again, with multiple connected meters. Systems that are really energy efficiency driven, where the customer is really looking to maximize that energy efficiency of their system. We've had really good adoption there. And then lastly, we found some really good cost-conscious installs where we're able to help someone save money upfront when ordering their system. So after these 2.5 years, we've got a lot of feedback from our customers, and we've gone back to it and we've updated the feature offerings for the System 1000. As you can see on screen here now, we now offer up to 4 channels of independent BTU calculation with the System 1000. So in this 2026 feature update, the specifications that you can get are up to 4 independent BTU channels with up to 8 flow or rate meter inputs, and those all have totals with them. You can still bring in up to 4 pulse meters for totalization. Always have BACnet, and now we've added Modbus communications. We've also added a new flow-only display mode based on customer feedback. We've got metric units that are now available for our Canadian and European friends. We went back and enhanced the coefficient of performance sector of the device to expand that to more rate inputs. We've updated the user interface to make it easier to work with the device in the field. And all of these new features are available on both new 1-channel and 2-channel units. I've kidded around internally where it's almost enough to call it a version 2, but we kind of just stuck with version 1. So let's take a look at what 4-channel BTU measurement looks like. This is a similar chart to what we showed before. Where up top, you've got your channel 1, you might have a chiller. Channel 2, you might have a cooling tower. Down in the lower left with channel 3, you might have it on a technology loop inside of your data center. And then channel 4 might be a boiler or a domestic hot water system. So when you look at all of these systems that can be brought into one System 1000, it really is the center of your mechanical system where you're bringing in 4 independent BTU channels. We're showing it here with 4 primary water flow meters with totals, 4 auxiliary rate meters with totals, 4 pairs of temperature sensors, 4 digital or pulse meter outputs or inputs, 8 analog outputs, 8 digital or pulse outputs, and we'll have 1 RS-485 serial connection going back to your building management system, or IP connection is also available. So one of the first things we dug into was updating the coefficient of performance section of the System 1000. It's been a really great tool for us to help our customers track and establish efficiency baselines for complex mechanical systems. It's a really easy to understand single data point that says, I'm getting this much heating or cooling out of this much energy input. And you can track that over time as a live data point that's coming out all the time to your building management system constantly. But what we wanted to do is expand it so that you could use other Onicon devices as your energy input value that you're bringing in to do the COP with. So now in the 2026 update, we've got the COP is now available based on for steam-based hydronic heating systems. So you take your Onicon steam meter on the input to your heat exchanger, and then you can go ahead and configure that as your rate input. So you get amount of heating per mass of steam, so per pound of steam that you're bringing into that. We also expanded it if you have gas-fired hydronic heating systems. So install an Onicon gas meter and you can bring in those cubic feet of gas and you can say, how much heat am I getting per cubic foot of gas? And lastly is an application that we saw in a data center where they had a water-to-water heat exchanger separating the utility loop outside from the technology loop inside. And we wanted to look at how can we determine the efficiency of that water-to-water heat exchanger. And it's really actually easy to do on a System 1000 because you can basically take channel 1 and put it on the input side of your heat exchanger, take channel 2, put it on the output side of your heat exchanger, and you're getting BTU measurements for both sides of that heat exchanger. And then you can connect the analog out for channel 2 to the analog in of channel 1 and set up your COP calculations, and it'll give you a real-time coefficient of performance for that water-to-water heat exchanger. So you can see how much inefficiency you're losing for that water-to-water heat exchanger. You can see if it's getting fouled up or if you have something where you need to do some maintenance on it or upgrades. We also added metric units to the System 1000. We had a lot of requests from Canada and international customers that wanted to see their preferred units. So we went back, and this took a pretty deep dive into the firmware to get this done because we wanted this to be as configurable as you need it to be. So the unit comes set on your ordering form. You can order it directly for English or metric, but that's also field configurable. Just because you order one, it's not locked in when you get it in the field. But we wanted to make it maximally configurable for you in the field. So all of your input, display, and output units are all independently configurable by the user in the field. So the default units are going to set it all to the same. So it'll be metric, metric, metric if you set it for metric on the defaults. But if you've got, for example, a GPM flow meter that you know what it's configured for in GPM, but you want to display liters and then have liters go out to your building automation system, that's fully configurable within the System 1000 now with the metric units and all the units settings we've got. One of the other approaches we took is establishing classes of units. So as you can see on the screen here, this is the main unit setting screen. You've got fluid flow, liquid flow, gas flow, volume. You can independently set what units you want the device to display depending on the type or class of units or flow that's being brought into the System 1000. And all that's completely independently settable. Next thing we did was we went back and improved the user interface. We wanted to give everybody a better way to change things on the System 1000 out in the field, because we have gotten a lot of feedback that people are buying these with maybe keeping a channel spare that they want to configure at a later date, or they've changed what's going on in one channel. So one of the biggest things we wanted to do is make it so that the customer can edit the channel name in the field. Those were previously locked in the factory, and now we're giving you the ability to change those channel names as your mechanical system evolves over time and you want to evolve the System 1000 with it. So we got a great little keyboard screen here that allows you to put in your new channel name. And this pops up whether you're entering digits or numbers, all sorts of stuff. We got this little screen that pops up and it tells you what the previous setting was. It tells you what you're putting in as the new setting. It'll give you any limits to the setting. If there's a range that you can only set something between, it'll tell you all that on this screen. And it also allows you to go back to the previous menu without committing a change if you're unsure about making the change. So you don't have to worry about messing something up. That's a great addition there. As I mentioned earlier, we've added Modbus support. So now natively, the System 1000 will handle Modbus, whether that's RTU or TCP/IP, so serial or internet. We can do both. We have gotten a lot of feedback about people wanting to do more testing and more monitoring with their System 1000. So we added some new short-term trending points with a 24-hour and a last 30-day data points that are continually rolling over there. And one of the biggest things we added is for you real data nerds who want to go in there and make changes to your system, see how it performs compared to how it was performing before. We've got now user-defined resettable totals. And this really allows you to take baselines for whatever period of time you want to run it on, and then redo a new test with your changes, and then you can compare those. We also updated the on-screen status indicators. Now that there's 4 channels to keep track of, we wanted to make sure you clearly knew if you have a warning for one of your channels, when it lights up at the bottom of the display to say warning, it also tells you what channel that's on. So when you walk up to the System 1000, there's no guessing as to where your issues are. It's really, really easy to find where any issues or problems are in your system. And lastly, another great tool is the user test mode. That's really great for validating your install on your system and sending real-time commands out to your building automation system. What we did was we went back there and looked at it and said, there's no reason this needs to add to the real totals of the building. So any totals that are accumulated during user test mode, when you exit user test mode, they just go away and you go back to your normal totals for your building. So you're not adding to totals. This last one was kind of the biggest surprise we all had here at Onicon. Over the past 2.5 years, we've had several requests for what if I want a System 1000 and I don't want to measure BTU on one of the channels? And we were shocked. We were surprised. We don't know why you would want to do that. Knowing flow is great, but knowing BTUs is even better. But for those people who did not want to measure BTUs, they only wanted to measure flow. We've introduced some new flow-only modes for the System 1000. And so with this, any channel can be configured as flow only by not selecting temp sensors for that channel. So you just turn them to not set in the menus or when you're ordering it through the configuration and ordering form. And when you configure that channel for flow only, we wanted to make sure you're not getting fake alarms or warnings for energy or temperature that's not within the expected range. So when that channel is in flow only, all of those energy and temperature values are both hidden from the display and all of the warnings and alarms are shut off for energy and temperature. So you don't have any additional things to look at on the screen, and additional warnings or alarms that are always going off when you don't need them. And lastly, we snuck a little special feature in here where if you're going to configure all of the channels for flow only, the main energy measurement screen, that's the main display on the System 1000, if you configure all the channels to flow only, you'll get a nice change in that screen where instead of being an energy measurement screen, it becomes a flow measurement screen. So from the start, we've always said that the System 1000 allows you to get more from your BTU meter. And it's more so today than it ever has been. So the key features, just to kind of go over this again for everybody, is up to 8 rate or total inputs, up to 4 pulse totalizer inputs, up to 8 analog and 8 pulse outputs, BACnet MSTP, BACnet IP, Modbus RTU, Modbus TCP IP, up to 4 channels of thermal energy measurement. We still have all the great advanced functionality that you all have come to love with expanded real-time coefficient of performance calculations. We still got all that great math input logic with flow addition, flow subtraction. And you can use all that to simplify your complex installations and complex applications. And lastly, we've added flow only mode as a new expansion for that as well. We kept all the great advanced diagnostics and made it even easier to walk up to the System 1000 and identify where a problem in your system is. And of course, as always, easy installation, easy commissioning, and great Onicon support.
Thanks, Scott. A lot of great updates there. Let's move forward with BTU applications with this System 1000. So first, we have your condenser water system, also known as your cooling tower system. The meters we have and end devices we have on this system is a condenser water flow meter, a makeup domestic water meter, cooling tower blowdown meter, a supply and return temperature sensors. And the variable outputs for that, condenser water flow rate in total, cooling tower BTU rejection rate in total, blowdown water totalization, which allows us to verify schedules are being followed, makeup water flow in totals, allows us to monitor usage and verify plant consumption, and verify sub-meter watering against your utility bills as well. Total water consumption volume from the makeup domestic water and blowdown, and supply and return temperature, and the delta T between the two. Next, we have your domestic hot water system that's excluding recirc losses. So what we have on this is a domestic hot water flow meter, domestic hot water recirculation flow meter, supply and recirculation temperature sensors, and domestic water supply temperatures. So what we get out of this from this system is domestic hot water supply flow rate and total, domestic hot water recirc flow rate in total, net hot water BTU energy consumption rate, which allows owners and tenants to track actual BTU usage, recirc system BTU losses rate in total, which allows tracking and validating BTU losses to your recirc system. And additionally, we have our supply and return and delta T differential. So next, let's dive into the systems that we can calculate coefficient of performance on. First is our chill water or cooling tower or chill water systems. In this chill water system, we have a flow meter, we have a domestic water flow meter, electric utility meter, or some sort of electric input coming from your chiller, a supply and return temperature sensor, which allows us to have a chill water flow rate in total being read, chilled energy BTU consumption rate in total, electricity consumption rate, total electric consumption, and COP, which verifies max performance and cost savings. Makeup water total, and we can monitor for leaks and any makeup water cost as well. And we have a supply and return and delta T temperature readings on this as well. Next is our boiler or gas fire COP systems. We have a hot water flow meter, a natural gas flow meter, a makeup flow meter, supply and return temps, and COP across that gas fire system, which allows us to see rate totals for your hot water, boiler thermal BTU consumption, production rate in total, natural gas flow rate in total, and now as of this year, COP across your boiler. It's in heating thermal per foot of natural gas, makeup water totals, and we can monitor for leaks and makeup water costs as well. And we have that supply and return delta T across that system. Next is our steam heating systems. We have a hot water flow meter, a saturated steam flow meter, a pump condensate flow meter, supply and return temperature sensors, and COP across that steam heating system. Available outputs is heating for hot water flow rate in total, saturated steam flow rate in total, energy exchange rate in total, pump steam condensate totals, and as of this year, heat exchanger efficiency COP. So you see that efficiency across that entire heat exchanger, and that's in BTUs per pound of steam of thermal BTUs, which we have a supply and return delta as well. And next we have our water to water heat exchangers, which you're seeing these a lot in data centers and other applications. So how we have this split up is in utility loop and chill water technology loop, which we have a flow meter for both. Utility loop supply and return temps, and technology loop supply and return temperature sensors. Available outputs is utility loop flow rate and total, energy rate and total, and BTUs, technology flow rate and totals, along with the energy as well, supply and return deltas for both sides, and real-time coefficient of performance across that heat exchanger, ensuring they're getting proper heat transfer and efficiency.
Okay, thanks, Jacob. That was great. Those are all good applications, and there's plenty more out there. And we love it when our RSMs and our reps all find those applications for us. So let's talk about the different options we're going to have now and how you can go ahead and order that. The three main options we have for the System 1000 are the System 1100, which is the one channel BTU with one primary flow meter, one aux flow meter, two pulse and two digital inputs, four analog outs, and four pulse and digital outputs. The System 1200, which is the two channel version, has been kind of the sweet spot so far, but we're looking to change that with the four channel here. That two channel, you've got two channels of BTU with two primary flow meters, two aux flow meters that also have totals, four pulse total or digital inputs, and then you have 8 analog outs and 8 pulse or digital outputs. And lastly, new to the line for this year for 2026 is the System 1400. That is the four channel BTU with four independent BTU channels, four primary flow meters with totals. You're still going to have four aux flow rate meters with totals on those. And then we're keeping the four pulse or totalizer or digital inputs with 8 analog outputs and 8 pulse or digital outputs. So those are the three main models we're offering for 2026. When you start getting into the four channel, there are some ordering configuration considerations that you need to keep in mind. And so we're just going to kind of go over some of those restrictions that we've got right now so everybody understands when it's time to order what they can and can't do. So on a one or two channel System 1000, the primary flow meter can communicate by frequency or analog. Frequency is a way that Onicon meters talk to their peripherals. We reference something called a pulse per gallon. And this is kind of an Onicon standard that we use on all of our products. And so on the one or two channel, either the primary or the aux flow meter can be frequency or analog. It's free to choose for you. On the four channel, the primary flow meter is how you're going to define that channel, and that's going to be frequency or analog, your choice. When you bring in an auxiliary flow meter, it's going to have to be the opposite type, frequency or analog, from whatever the primary meter is. And we've got that set up in the firmware where it'll kind of drive that for you on the back end. And we've also set it up in the ordering form where it's going to restrict when you're in four channel. Once you select your primary, it's going to limit the list of aux flow meters that you can select just to make sure you stay within these rules. So the other thing to note is that primary flow meters are liquid flow meters only. This is a device that is designed for hydronic heating and cooling systems. That's kind of the heart of what Onicon does here. So those primary flow meters are going to have to be liquid flow meters. In terms of the temp sensors in one or two channel units, the temp sensors are your choice, Onicon, analog, or RTD on either channel. As we've mentioned before, we're always going to recommend the Onicon temp sensors. We calibrate those here in-house, and they've got class-leading performance and accuracy in matched pairs. On the four channel, it's hard configured where channels 1 and 2 are either Onicon or independent analog temp sensors, and then channels 3 and 4 are going to be RTD. Now, the great thing is here at Onicon, we've gone out and worked with some RTD manufacturers to get some great matched pairs options for your RTDs there as well. So you'll get really good accuracy with those RTDs as well. When you're working in flow only mode, that's selectable for any channel by selecting none or not set for that channel. And then again, as we covered before, if all the channels in the unit, whether it's a 1, 2, or 4 channel unit, when all of the channels are set to flow only, that main display will automatically switch to a flow measurements display. And then lastly, BACnet and Modbus networking, that is selectable on the ordering form, but really they're both, we prefer you field configure those to make sure you know all the details of the network that you're connecting to. And so lastly, this is going to be a brief customer value proposition, which is something that we noticed here at Onicon while we were working with the contractors to build our new world headquarters. We looked at what is a study of cost savings for installing a device. And this is something that came up when we were working with our controls contractors for our new building, when we were talking about the value of doing System 1000 versus doing System-10s, and just the costs involved with all of these devices and the install of these devices. So if we look at just, let's do an estimate of what it costs to install a box on a wall. Per device install cost, you have wall mount about 150 bucks. An electrical drop will cost you 500, and the network integration is 500 plus as well. So we can just say, as a low estimate, it's going to cost about $1,150 per device to install, a System-10 or a D100 or a System 1000 on the wall. So let's talk about where these value propositions come in then. We've gone through great lengths to make sure that the System 1200 and the System 1400, all the System 1000 line, is price competitive with its equivalent System 10 system. So a System 1200 with its temp sensors is price competitive with 2 System 10s with temp sensors and BACnet. It's a fair trade there. But when you look at install costs, one System 1200, the install cost is going to be $1,150, where 2 System 10s install costs going to be $2,300. So right there, you're saving $1,150 for your customer, and you can display that savings to them. It gets even better though when you look at the 4-channel System 1400. With temp sensors, it's price competitive with your 4 System 10s with temp sensors and BACnet. But when you look at the install cost, that 4-channel System 1400 install costs are still $1,150, where 4 System 10s, your install costs are now $4,600. So the install cost savings right there is $3,450. And so what we've seen here in working with our customers and here personally with our own experiences, when you're looking at total installed price with the System 1000, you can demonstrate a cost savings near 30% up front when you start selling it or talking about it as what is your installed cost with this device. So give your customers that nice little bit of savings there. And it's a great way to justify the value of the System 1000.
Thanks, Scott. It's a lot of savings off a single System 1000 system. And we want to appreciate you guys joining us today for another Onicon webinar series. And especially since this is our second time hosting a webinar for our System 1000. We had this because of you all. We listened to your feedback, and that's why we had all these changes to our options and features. So this session was driven by you from real world applications, and we appreciate that. Your input has helped us expand channels, new features, and all that added flexibility that Scott talked about. We're committed to continue evolving our systems, especially our System 1000s, based off your needs. So now we're going to take a couple minutes to review our questions and get answers to you. So please stay tuned, and we'll get back to you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Jacob. And also want to thank the marketing team for putting on this webinar, and thank all of you for joining us today. As a reminder, you can ask questions in that top right question box. Looks like we have a few questions coming in now. But while you're getting your questions lined up and sent over, I thought I would take just a minute and tell you a quick story. So, how did Onicon get into BTU measurement? And, Onicon's been selling calibrated flow meters since the 80s. And, every flow meter that we build and ship out, we wet calibrate to your specific application. So flow rate, pipe size, pipe material, all comes into play. We put so many gallons through it, gives our flow meters a wet calibration. And so, when we started off in the 80s, all we did was sell flow meters. And what happened was, we would get a phone call a few years later and they'd say, hey, your flow meter is wrong. Well, hey, we've built and calibrated the flow meter to your specific application. Why do you think it's wrong? And they're like, our BTUs aren't adding up. And so that's when Anacon started diving in to try to really understand where there's these inaccuracies were coming from. And we came up with a long list between the flow meter, the temperature sensors, how many times the building management system was doing the calculation. Were they taking consideration of the specific heat and the density of the fluid and so forth? So that's how Anacon came out. And we really found out a lot of the inaccuracies was coming from the temperature sensors. Standard RTDs can be half a degree to a degree off. Well, if it's a half a degree off on the supply and a half a degree off in the return in the opposite direction, well, when you start looking at that delta T, that could be 1 degree off in a 10-degree chilled water system. Now you're looking at 10% error before you start considering the error from the flow meter, how many times you're doing the calculation and so forth. So, that's when Anacon came out with the System-1, then the System-10 BTU meter, which really has been our flagship product, doing that accurate delta T temperature sensor and accurate BTU measurement, and really taking the liability off of the controls guys. Now you only have one finger to point. Is it the flow meter? Is it the temperature sensor? Is it the person calculating BTUs? Anacon's taking that ownership and providing a calibrated device. So this System 1000 is such an exciting next generation, because not only are we able to do that with multiple channels, as Scott and Jacob were able to show you here, but we're taking it to the next level, not just BTU measurement, but taking in and actually doing those efficiency calculations for you. And like that last slide Scott just did, I was sitting in the meeting, Anacon's moving into a new headquarters in a few months, and it's 3.5 times the size we're at today, which super exciting for us, trying to maintain those quick lead times for everybody. But we're like, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to showcase our products. And so we're saying, oh, hey, we want to measure the 2 chillers here, the 2 boilers here, domestic water, gas measurement, et cetera, et cetera. And I can see the controls guy trying to calculate how many controller inputs. And I said, well, and we're going to bring it all into our System 1000 and communicate everything. So completely reduced how many inputs into the controller were required, how many power connections were required. It's kind of really just simplified that process. So it was pretty neat for me to be able to experience that directly. But anyways, enough of me talking here. A lot of good questions coming in. Let's see. I'll take the first one, and then I'll start naming them off and passing them off to Scott and Jacob here. The first one was Michael Morton. Will this presentation be available after the webinar? And absolutely. So on our website, we have a tab that says resources, and then a tab under that says webinars. So give us a few days, but we always upload our webinars to our website after, to be able to view anytime at your pleasure there. Good question. Next question. Can I upgrade my existing System 1000 to include the new features?
I'll go ahead and fill that one, Mike. Unfortunately, no, not at this time. There was 1 or 2 very small hardware changes we had to make on one of the processor boards to allow us to have all of this extra data that we're getting with 4-channel systems. So it's not as simple as a firmware update in the field. If they are features you absolutely need and want, we're always here to work with you at Anacon. If you want to send the device back in, we can replace that processor board with that updated chips on it, so we could get you changed out and would have an upgrade cost and everything there. If it comes time to that for anyone, feel free to reach out to your RSM or myself directly, and we'll work with you on getting that updated. But unfortunately, it's not as simple as just a firmware flash.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, next question here. Does the internal trending compare the current month to the previous month?
I'll take that one, Mike. Thanks. So what you need to do to have accurate comparison is you need to pull the data. So if you want to do a month's data, pull that data, store it, and then after the next month that you want to report to, pull that one, and you can compare it side to side. The System 1000 doesn't do a comparison directly comparing the 2 months or weeks or days, how you want to do it. So you have to make sure you're saving that data and filing it correctly.
And I
Thank you, Jake.
think tying into that, we've got a question here from Benny. Hey, Benny, how you doing? Um, how many months of worth of data can the System 1000 hold? We have a system inside of the device where it breaks it down into every 24 hours, every 30 days, and every year. It has these little, we call them buckets, but they're places for us to store totals. And so it's got all those short-term totals that are continually accruing, and they change out whether it's every night or every 24 hours or every month. And so it can do that for you as well. And then, of course, it does have the lifetime totals in the device, which are always accumulating. In terms of actual real-time performance data, it doesn't do trending of real-time performance data. So you can't look at it and say, hey, what has my flow trending been over the past 24 hours? It just will tell you what the total flow has been. So it doesn't store that real-time rate data, just your total data.
Yeah, and I think, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but you hook it up to a laptop, you let the laptop sit there, and through our GUI interface data, we'll be able to do all that trending data.
Okay.
Sure. All right. Next question. This seems like a lot of wiring connections in one device. What kind of wiring diagram is provided?
Yeah, that was an area where we also went back to work and looked at some feedback we got and tried to make this a better user experience in the field. The System 1000 comes with a very expansive wiring diagram that maps all of the connections on the board, and then it'll show you where your Onicon meters need to connect, and they're identified, excuse me, they're identified by serial number as to where those connections go on the board. And then furthermore, we've started adding now what individual colors of wires hook up to which individual terminal. So, you've got your green wire goes to J12 connection number 10. We've got that all shown on the wiring diagram that comes with your System 1000. And those are custom built for every order. So when you order that System 1000 and you specify what meters are going to go where, we know all the wire colors for all the Onicon meters. And so we build a custom wiring diagram to show you what colors need to go to what terminals on what
Thank you, Scott. Next question from Jeffrey. Wanted to confirm that this could operate to monitor 4 separate chilled water, hot water supplies to separate spaces, each being monitored separately for BTU usage. And I'll answer that one, and you guys can correct me or add to it. But yes, all 4 channels are separate. So that will take 4 separate flow meters, 1 for each zone, and then 2 temperature sensors for each zone. But it's calculating BTUs. Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, Zone 4, or what we're calling Channel 1, Channel 2, Channel 3, Channel 4. So all pre-configured to your specific application. All chilled water applications, say you want to do 2 chillers with condenser water, chilled water, condenser water. So the different ways you could set it up are really endless, but absolutely can operate 4 different separate BTU applications. All right, next one from Daniel. Is there a maximum distance that the flow meters of each channel can be away from the actual System 1000 central location? And maybe I'll answer that one too, and you guys can add to it. So most of the connections from the flow meter or temperature sensors to the System 1000 is going to be either a high-end frequency or an analog output. Like a 4 to 20. So really no limitation from a distance. It's not like it's proprietary cable that you have to pre-cut. So typically 500, 1000, 2000, depending on the cable gauge is certainly suitable. From my experience, a few hundred feet is going to resolve almost most of those projects there for you.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mike. And I think to second that, it's one of the great things about what Onicon does in terms of having our meters communicate to our peripherals on frequency. Frequency over distance is one of the most stable ways to transmit that signal. Second to that is a milliamp signal on like the 4 to 20 analog. But it's one of the great things about the Onicon frequency system is that it does give you that maximum accuracy over those longer runs. So we can get those really long distances over a couple hundred feet if that's what you really need.
Thank you, Scott. Next question from Michael at ATS. Product looks awesome. Thanks, Michael. Some of the historically biggest issues with B2 systems have been backnet integration. Critical for all this is for this great data is to make it to the BAS, who's the Anacon backnet master. And we do have a full engineering team at Anacon. We call them our sales and applications engineers. And we have a full team answering phones. Also, depending on where you are, we do have a really strong rep network. I typically say, hey, your rep's your first point of contact. But if you're kind of in front of the unit, call our SAE group or our tech support group. Certainly able to have someone answer the phone for you and set that up. Or if you know you're going on site, want to make sure someone's available, we can always do a preemptive call to set up, make sure that we're prepared when you're going on site.
It's funny, Mike, I viewed that question a little bit differently. Who's our Anacon backnet master? Man, we've got a couple of really great people in our firmware team who have put a lot of hours into making sure that all this data makes sense and that it's reporting properly out to your network. Kind of like Michael said, it's tough getting all this data to your network and having it be correct. And so with our firmware engineer team and our QA and testing teams have put so much time into validating and verifying that all the information that's coming off the System 1000 that's going to go to your building management system is correct, and it is accurately representing what the meter is measuring. So a big thanks to that team in the background here, because they're the ones who do all that work that bring these products to life.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. That's a different perspective. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, can you tell a product manager with that response, huh?
Yeah, product manager versus the sales guy, right? But I think it is reassuring because we're using the same backnet Modbus stack that we're using in most of our other products. So it's not like we've recreated the wheel here with the System 1000.
Yeah, that is a great point. We actually, the stack that is shared with the FT3500, which has been a really stable and steady stack for us out on the field there. So one of the things we tried to do was to keep these family of products working on the same family of firmware and hardware. I mean, you would be surprised at how much firmware in the System 1000 is shared with an FT35 or an FT3400 device. It is really a testament to this approach, a systemic approach we've taken to product development, where we want to reuse as much known good entities as possible, and it also reduces the maintenance of these projects over time to make sure that it's easier to maintain and update them with new features.
Thank you, Scott. And I think this is the last question, but don't hesitate to go ahead and throw anything else in there. But can the System 1000 control any non-Anacon peripherals?
Yes, it can, with a kind of an asterisk behind that. So we include something that we call a network relay as one of the functions for the digital outputs of the System 1000. So you can take your BACnet or Modbus and have it tell the System 1000, hey, I want you to close this digital output. This basically turn it into a digital relay, if you will. And so you can use that to switch on or activate a blower motor or open a valve or do something like that. What we can't really do, though, is 4 to 20 control. The only way you can do that is if you configure one of the 4 to 20 outputs relative to one of the rates that the System 1000 is measuring, whether it's a flow or energy or something like that. If you can use an analog out like that, yeah, you can drive something. But the biggest thing we can do with it is that network relay function, as we call it, where you can switch something on and off through the building automation system using the digital outputs.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And all right, still got a good group here today. Thank you everyone that joined us today. Again, this webinar will be available, so if you have any colleagues that would be beneficial to sitting on this, that will be available here in the next few days. But please reach out to your local reps, get more information, see how we can utilize the System 1000 on your next project. And looking forward to doing more of these webinars moving forward here. So keep a lookout, and thanks again for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks.